The silent depths of the Baltic Sea hold secrets. Secrets that now threaten to erupt into open conflict. Imagine a shadowy fleet, operating beyond the reach of international law, weaving a web of deceit and disruption beneath the waves. We are not talking about a future threat. This is happening now. Submarine cables, the arteries of our digital world, are being targeted. Power grids are flickering, and a hidden war is unfolding in the very waters that connect Europe. This is not just about Finland, Estonia, or even Russia. This is a challenge to the security of the entire Western world. The stakes are higher than you think. You might believe you're safe on land, but the danger lurks unseen, just beneath the surface. This video will unravel that hidden conflict, so stick with us, because the truth will chill you to the bone. We will break down this complex web of aggression into 6 critical chapters. Before we dive in, make sure you've liked and subscribed to stay on top of these evolving global events. Chapter 1. The Shadow Beneath the Waves. The Baltic Sea, a seemingly placid expanse, is currently a battlefield for a new type of warfare. One fought in the silent depths, utilizing covert operations against critical infrastructure. Russia, seemingly emboldened by its ongoing aggression in Ukraine, has extended its reach into the Baltic region, not with tanks or fighter jets, but with a network of disguised vessels known as the Shadow Fleet. This clandestine naval force, comprised of ships often of unknown ownership or registered to shell companies, operates with impunity, evading international regulations, and posing a grave threat to the region's security. These are not simply rogue actors. This is a calculated strategy, a carefully constructed operation designed to destabilize and undermine the West without provoking direct military confrontation. The Baltic Sea, with its intricate web of underwater cables, is the perfect environment for such operations. These fiber optic cables, essential for global communications, data transfer, and energy supply, are vulnerable, and Russia knows it. They are the digital lifelines of modern society, and any disruption to these networks can have devastating consequences on not only Europe, but also on the USA and the entire Western world. Russia is systematically exploiting these vulnerabilities. What makes this so worrying is that they're not using advanced high-tech weapon systems, but simple, yet extremely effective methods to damage these cables. We are not talking about futuristic technology. We are talking about ship anchors, commercial fishing equipment, and other, far more deliberate acts of sabotage. The Kremlin, always looking to push the boundaries and exploit weaknesses, is using these methods to cause maximum chaos. The sheer audacity of this new form of silent aggression is enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. In this chapter, we will uncover the complex world of these clandestine operations. Chapter 2. Finland's Bold Move. Amid this rising tide of subterfuge, Finland has emerged as a key player, demonstrating a level of resolve and strategic brilliance that has sent shockwaves through Moscow. Finland, a nation with a long history of resilience in the face of Russian aggression, recently took a bold step that has illuminated the depth of Russia's shadow operations in the Baltic Sea. The Helsinki government made the astonishing move to seize a tanker that was carrying Russian oil. This was not just a routine maritime interdiction, it was a carefully planned operation aimed at exposing the truth behind Russia's illegal activities in the region. The tanker, flying the flag of the Cook Islands and known as the Eagle S, was suspected of being involved in a series of suspicious incidents that caused damage to underwater cables between Finland and Estonia. This seizure was the first domino to fall and led to an incredibly important international scandal. The Finnish Coast Guard boarded the vessel and towed it to Finnish territorial waters, initiating a thorough investigation. Robin Lardo, director of the Finnish National Bureau of Investigation, highlighted that the ship's anchor was the primary cause of damage. The Finnish Customs Service further revealed that the cargo, Russian oil, was being transported in violation of Western sanctions. What's truly astounding is that this isn't an isolated incident. It is a part of a coordinated campaign by Russia, using old tankers to circumvent sanctions imposed by Western nations. Finland's move was a masterstroke, revealing a much broader pattern of Russian aggression. This act has not only exposed the Shadow Fleet's operations, but also caused a massive diplomatic crisis for Russia, proving that this is not just about oil, it is about asserting their dominance in this region. This was more than a maritime operation. It was a strategic countermove against Russia's gray zone warfare. Chapter 3: Estonia's strategic response. Finland's actions served as a catalyst, prompting a strategic response from Estonia, another Baltic nation on the front lines of this new Cold War. The timing of this is everything. In the wake of the cable damage and the uncovering of Russia's shadow fleet activities, Estonia did not stand idly by. Amidst growing suspicion that a sinister plot was being hatched, they immediately started naval patrols in the region. This move was a direct response to the disruption of the Estlink 2 power grid with Finland and 4 telecommunication cables in the Baltic Sea. The timing was not coincidental. Estonia's foreign minister, Margus Tsahkna, publicly stated the increasing suspicion of sabotage, confirming that the Estonian defense forces have begun patrolling the critical submarine cables. This is not just a simple show of force. It is a commitment to protecting their digital infrastructure. Estonia's defense minister, Hanno Pevkur, also confirmed that they have decided to send their navy close to Sink 1 to defend and secure the energy connection with Finland. This shows the level of coordination and seriousness with which they treat this new threat. These are not knee-jerk reactions. They are carefully planned strategic moves designed to counter the Russian threat. What we're seeing is a unified front of Baltic nations working together to defend their shared interests. We are observing a new era of military cooperation in the face of an unseen threat. The world stage is witnessing small nations, not standing down, but standing up to a world superpower. In this chapter, we will further unpack how they are doing this. Chapter 4: The EU and NATO weigh in. As the scale of Russia's covert operations became apparent, the European Union and NATO have stepped into the fray. The situation in the Baltic Sea has triggered a wave of concern across Europe, with the highest levels of government voicing their worries. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, stated that this situation revealed the direct threats to Europe's infrastructure, emphasizing her commitment to protecting Europe's critical infrastructure, including submarine cables. Her words were not just rhetoric. They were a pledge to strengthen the defense of the continent's digital lifelines. High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Kaja Kallas, didn't hold back from naming the culprit, indicating that this incident was part of a pattern of suspicious attacks on critical infrastructure. Kallas clearly stated that the vessel in question was part of Russia's shadow fleet, a fleet that not only threatened security, but also the environment, all while financing Russia's war effort. These statements were not simply expressions of concern. They were a clear indication that the EU was willing to take direct and firm action, including the possibility of further sanctions. At the same time, NATO also reacted swiftly to the threats posed by Russia's shadow fleet. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte condemned any attacks on critical infrastructure, including the disruption of power grids and telecommunication cables between Finland and Estonia. Rutte emphasized that NATO stands in solidarity with its allies and will oppose any attack on critical infrastructure. This shows that NATO is not just an observer, but a participant ready to provide support. The collective power of these two institutions working together is something Russia did not expect. In this chapter, we look at this powerful alliance. Chapter 5: Unmasking the Shadow Fleet and the Russian Game. The seizure of the Eagle-S and the subsequent actions by Estonia, the EU, and NATO have shone a bright light on the inner workings of Russia's shadowy oil trade. We now have a clear picture of the mechanics of the operation. The Shadow Fleet, consisting of old, unregistered, and often uninsured tankers, has ballooned to become a significant part of the global tanker fleet. This is not just about evading sanctions. It's about creating an alternate supply chain that is outside of Western control. As was revealed, the Shadow Fleet transports Russian oil to countries like China and India, bypassing restrictions and filling Moscow's war chest. Western officials have confirmed that almost 600 Russian crude oil and product tankers are either in violation of sanctions or at high risk of violating them. The sheer scale of this operation is stunning and proves this is not a rogue operation, but a massive, coordinated effort. The situation is further compounded by the fact that the Russian side continues to push the limits, with the Shadow Fleet involved in numerous incidents, including collisions. One such example was the Andromeda Star, a tanker managed by an unidentified company that crashed off the Danish coast. The lack of proper insurance, common among shadow vessels, has created a financial burden on Western countries. This event serves as a stark reminder of the risks associated with this shadowy fleet. In this chapter, we examine how Putin is attempting to break the world order. Chapter 6, the unexpected twist in the future. As we've seen, the West has successfully pushed back against Russian expansion in the Baltic region, but this is not the end of the story. Russia has had a huge setback in their plans for the Baltic, but they are unlikely to simply give up. The Russian government will have to reassess, adapt, and find new ways to exert pressure and destabilize. There is an enormous threat looming large: cyber warfare. The focus has shifted to physical attacks, but Russia has proven time and time again it is a formidable opponent in the digital space. The submarine cables that they attempted to damage through physical means are now also potential targets for cyber attacks. The West may very well discover that Russia's cyber attacks were the real purpose of the physical attacks, creating a distraction while they prepare a new, bigger wave of digital attacks. What's concerning is that they can potentially do this all remotely, without exposing their ships. We must not be naive. This may very well be the beginning of a new type of conflict, a cyber war that unfolds in the dark, where the consequences are every bit as devastating as physical attacks, but completely unseen to most people. It has been observed that following the naval exercises that pushed out the shadow tankers, they were seen clustering south in an area that was not previously used. Russia may be planning its next steps right now, and this time, it may be more sophisticated than ever before. We must acknowledge that this conflict is far from over, and we must be prepared for new forms of aggression from the Kremlin. The situation is extremely volatile, and what happens next could determine the future balance of power in the region. The world must be ready. In this video, we've examined how Russia's shadow operations in the Baltic Sea, while having been uncovered by nations such as Finland and Estonia, still pose a serious threat to the stability of Europe. The seizure of a tanker by Finland and the subsequent actions of Estonia, the EU, and NATO have exposed the mechanics of Russia's clandestine oil trade and its attempts to disrupt critical infrastructure. While these actions have been successful in the short term, the situation remains volatile. Remember that Russia's ultimate aim is to weaken and divide the West, and they are using any means available to achieve their goals. As we've explored, the possibility of cyber warfare looms, adding another layer of complexity to this already precarious situation. The conflict in the Baltic Sea is not just a regional issue, it's a global one, with far-reaching implications for international security and the global order. This is why it is vital that we remain vigilant and continue to monitor the region. Thank you for staying with us to the end. Now you are fully informed on the intricate battles taking place in the dark depths of the Baltic Sea.